Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today we are looking at a cruiser again. After I've spent some time with the Marseille, which is, at least by wargaming classification, a cruiser, with, you can't see that, but I'm making very big air quotes with my hands here, we'll have something that's looking slightly more cruisery than that today, but still not quite at the point that I'm happy with it, but it's recent and there was a crate or something for it, or an event, I don't know, it's usually one of those things. Anyway, this is the Gibraltar, the Tier 10 British premium heavy cruiser. Now, the British tech tree has a Tier 10 heavy cruiser, and that's the Goliath, and it's apparently completely dreadful. I can't remember, I'm pretty sure I tested it at some point, but this is pretty similar looking, but not quite identical. So it's definitely not the same hull. What do we know about the Gibraltar? Well, not an awful lot. Obviously, the ship didn't exist, but she does sport. If we're going to have a very quick look, she does sport 234 50 caliber Mark 11 turrets and guns. These guns did exist. These were secondary guns on the Lord Nelson class pre-dreadnought and main guns on some armored cruisers back then. So these are roundabout from the early days of the 20th century. And obviously pre-dreadnoughts were not really a thing anymore. That was used around World War II, so the guns were actually stored. And after it turned out that the British didn't have any other uses for it, they eventually just dismantled and scrapped them. And so this is the British definitely did not build heavy cruisers anymore after the County class. So all of this is a what-if sort of project. We do see the kind of very typical British box-type superstructure here. But other than that, this is a theoretical project. So, how does this ship with its... with what would have at the time been probably 20-year-old guns compare to the Goliath, which I think has the same guns. The Gibraltar gets 4 smoke screens, but they are smokes ones, so they are not fuel smokes, they're the normal smokes, the stay-in-it smokes, and they don't last for an awful lot, but she does get 4 of them. She also gets the same sonar as the Goliath, but where the Goliath gets the defensive AA, and the Gibraltar gets a rapid reload, so maybe this is a slightly better version then. The torpedoes on the Goliath are single fire, as typical for British cruisers and destroyers. And the Gibraltar gets the Goliath gets an extra heel. The Gibraltar does not have that. In fact, the Gibraltar does not have any torpedoes at all, which was a bit of a bummer when I figured that out. But let's look at the stats. So it's the same hull, the same typically British cruiser lack of armor protection, because that's pretty little for a ship of that size. The Gibraltar is a bit slower than the Goliath, but marginally better maneuverable. So in all, pretty much the same thing. She does sport 3 quadruple turrets by the looks of it, where the Goliath has 4 triple turrets. Obviously, the British, I don't think, had these guns in quadruple turrets, but I'm not even sure they had them in triples either. Anyway, she does get a bit of better range, but if you look at the high explosive damage, you see that it doesn't fire any high explosive shells. This is an AP only gun, which is what you would normally find on the Minotaur with the 150s, only that the Minotaur doesn't have an 11-second base reload. But, you know, it's rapid reload, and it is a relatively large caliber for a cruiser, so, you know, we're going to have to check what we can do with that. Turret rotation is poor, but for a turret that size, that's not uncommon. She does get 113mm dual-purpose guns as secondaries, which have a pretty decent range, actually, of 7 kilometers, which is something the Goliath does not get. But in return, the Gibraltar has no torpedoes. I mean, it's not that the Goliath has an awful lot of torpedoes compared to something like the Minotaur. But, yeah, the Gibraltar has none. And she has worse AA than the Goliath. And she doesn't get the defensive AA. So this is not a support cruiser. This is not, the concealment is the same. This is not a support cruiser, I mean, honestly, the Goliath has a bit of a reputation of being terrible. But she might at least be useful. This thing is more like an assault cruiser, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing. The problem is this thing is massive. So if you compare that to something like the Minotaur, that's a huge ship. And smoke screens aren't very large. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, we have an assault cruiser, an AP-only assault cruiser with a relatively long reload, but with rapid reload. So let's see what we can do with this thing. I have built 4 rapid reload here, so I'm using the main battery mod 2 to get the base reload down, propulsion and steering, because yes, you could get the concealment down if you wanted to 8 kilometers. No, I'm not a fan of that, because even with the steering mod, she still got an almost 9-second turn time on the rudder, which is very long for a ship that size that has absolutely dreadful armor protection. I mean, it's not nobody's been accusing the Minotaur of having great armor protection, but the Minotaur is a destroyer. The Minotaur is as maneuverable as a Shimakaze on a good day. The Gibraltar, very much not so much. And is a lot bigger, has a lot of a bigger target. You get to choose between kind of the generic cruiser modernization thing, which gives you a bit traverse speed, a bit large caliber AA, and a bit of hit points. But you can also get the advanced turret, which gives you 20% traverse, which is what I prefer, because that means I don't have to use the traverse module, and I can use the reload module instead. So that is what I would recommend. Anyway, the AA on this thing is not necessarily much to write home about without the defensive AA skill. What else do we have to look at? Camo, actually, since we were here. There's the historical camouflage. It gives you hit points, range, large caliber AA range, which is a bit of a waste on this thing, and torpedo damage reduction, which nobody really cares as well. So the hit points are nice to have, I guess. So is the main battery firing range, but I almost would have preferred dispersion here or something. There is the Victorian white alternative camo, and that does give traverse speed, range, dispersion, and surface detection. This is a significantly superior camouflage, in my opinion. I haven't used it because I don't know where it comes from. I don't think it's necessarily available in the camouflage shop here. It's probably part of a bundle, or it's part of maybe it's part of a mission or something, but I haven't been paying attention. Anyway, if you can get your hand on this, and it doesn't look completely dreadful, I mean, we've seen worse, then this is, in my opinion, definitely the superior camouflage to the historical one. But we are sailing with the historical one because if somebody paid money to get a tier 10 premium, they're probably not afraid to take out their wallet again for the, whatever it is, 6,000 plus gold to get themselves a historical camouflage on the thing. All right, captain build. You can't quite use the captain that you would have on the heavy cruiser line because, well, different ship skills. So we don't have a defensive AA, and that means I'm just going to use the torpedo alert here. We don't need the air defense expert, which means we can use the victorious charge instead to get a little bit more hit points back when we sink stuff. You do want the fire supremacy for an extra rapid reload, and you definitely do want the Mistweaver. The smoke screens are, I would almost say, a double-edged sword on this ship, because this thing is large, and even if you're in the smoke screen, the battleship just generally has to fire shells in the same postcode that you're in. So it tends to be a little difficult in that regard. It really tends to be a little difficult to utilize smoke screens because they do provide a false sense of security, and the armor is so bad on this ship, and the size is so large that nasty things happen. Anyway, you definitely do want the Master Reloader as well, because that's the obvious skill to choose with a rapid reload build. So, the Gibraltar. What do you have to be aware of if you're facing one? It doesn't have any torpedoes, and it doesn't have any high explosive on the main guns. So, if you're in a destroyer, these things are actually more dangerous at long range. because the armor piercing will overpenetrate at closer ranges, and it can't do anything about it. It can use its secondaries, but it doesn't have any torpedoes. So it's more dangerous to you at long ranges with these shells, where the armor piercing has lost significantly penetration and is no longer over-penetrating your destroyer. So be careful with these things at range, although they are not super precise, really. They're not French levels of shotguns, but they're not super precise either. Against things like battleships, she does struggle. So it's really something you want to be kind of using at range, because you are not, you're too big and too squishy, and you don't have any torpedoes. And the smoke's a bit deceiving. Anyway, I think it's about time to get into some gameplay. We're playing on Hourglass, and we're up against Republik Double Smolensk, a Z-52 and a Shimakaze. We do have a Moskva of ourselves, and myself, and an Elbing, so we're probably not in a terrible position to deal with Smolensks. Let's go. But two of the buggers? That could get nasty. Alright, so Hourglass, I'm spawning on the right flank, so I'm gonna go right. I've got the Elbing with me. He is a scout cruiser, not really a destroyer, but hopefully still can scout for me somewhat. And I'm definitely gonna try and use the islands for cover, also to be undetected. The problem is, that thing is large. And relatively easy to hit, because it's way, way above the waterline. So the British tendency to build their things like castles, but then not putting any armor on it is not helpful. Anyway, we're heading towards the first island. That's something you can use, even though it doesn't quite make sense, but you can quite use to be undetected as long as your highest point stays behind the island. I'm slowing down. There is something spotted. Elbing lobs some predictive sea mines in that general direction, which is not a terrible idea. And there's a Smolensk. Hello, Mr. Smolensk. So, shots out at Smolensk. Let's see what he's up to, and let's see what we can do about him. Yeah. I would have liked a citadel, but I can do with that. So rapid reload up. Keeping an eye on who's shooting back at us. There we go. That's much more like it. And I'm not sure what the plan is there of the Smolensk, but that is a dead Smolensk, if I have anything to say about it. No, I don't, actually. Come on. Will you? Okay, Elbing takes him out. And there is the Republik, which is about to find out that the Elbing has torpedoes. Now, there's a bot, so my smoke, it was a bit of a waste, because the bot obviously keeps me spotted, because bots are bugged that way. So can somebody please kill that bot? There we go. It's far enough away that he's no longer spotting me in my smoke screen. Bot is now dead, and I do have a Republik over there. So let's see what we can do about the Republik. He knows that I'm here, obviously. Let's get some blind shots out at the Republik at max range, and then get behind the next island. And now we are spotted, unfortunately. That shouldn't have been the Republik. I'm not sure who's spotting me here. The two destroyers are on the other side, but that's what a Republik can do. That was just like 2 shells hitting, right? You want to know what happens when that thing hits you properly. So I'm going to stick behind the island, and if somebody could spot that Republik for me, that would be lovely. So let's stay behind the island. There he is. We're unspotted. Shots out at the Republik, and we'll rapid reload already. In reverse. Now we're spotted, but the shell's already out, and that's what happens when a Republik blind fires you. Yep, that's half your hit points gone. That's what I mean. This ship is extremely squishy, and as you can see, we're not doing, even with the rapid reload up, we're not doing an awful lot, and we're already out of hit points. So even if I'm not sitting still in my smoke, I would actually effectively have to go bow in, and as you can see, even like a strafing shot at the rear turret, towards the rear turret, is sufficient to shave all your hit points off. And now I'm out of health, and I need to run away. So yeah. Similar problem that you have in something like the Goliath, by the way, which is why that is also a dreadful ship in my opinion. But there comes some more Republik shots, blind, but pretty well aimed. And now we'll just wait for a heal to come off cooldown. And but we have done good so far. We have managed to kill one Smolensk. There's the other one over there. So let's see if we can do something about the other Smolensk. Republik for now is backing off a little bit. And there he is. Shots out at max range. No, he's turning. So that is going to miss probably. Yeah. And I've got rapid reload. So rapid reload up. I'm going to go bow in-ish because Republik is somewhere out there. And yeah, Smolensk survives. There comes the Republik again. He really wants to kill me. There's Shimakaze. Shots out at Shimakaze, but no, shells are never going to land where the Shimakaze is. And that's what I mean with the smokes being deceptive, because even if you're moving around inside your smoke, the shells just need to land somewhere in the smoke and have a very decent chance of actually hitting you, because the ship is so large that you see that, right? The whole ship is just one smoke puff is just covering the ship, and yeah, blind shot from the Republik, and that was it. Got a couple more hits in, but we're really not able of doing an awful lot of damage to that Republik. I mean, he's now going to die to the Elbing. There we go. So eventually we're wearing it down, but we're not doing an awful lot of damage, and the armor is really, really, really poor. It's just strong enough to perfectly arm large caliber battleship shells and make them not overpenetrate and explode right in your citadel. So I would say that's kind of an average game of what I would have been getting in this ship. It's not quite as bad as Marseille, but it's not great. So let's do a second one. And we are up against Schlieffen, Black Montana, regular Black Montana, Zhao, Smolensk, Yuyang, and Harugumo. We do have a Worcester, a Yamato, a lot of big caliber things on our side. There's a Kurfürst and an Ohio. And we're playing Atlantic. So we are going to poke our nose forward a little bit, because again, we do have a smoke screen, so we can be a little bit more aggressive, and there's no real point in being support cruiser, because we don't have an awful lot. We do have to play the ship as an assault cruiser. We can't play like a Goliath, stick with the team, do like aircraft support and set fires and things. Now let's see what the Yamato is doing. He is moving forward, so that is a relatively aggressive move given his position. But I'm going to be careful to see what comes around that island, because that island usually has something nasty coming around that corner over there, and the Yamato is full steam ahead into that position, which I am not sure is a wise choice. What are you trying to do? Ambush a destroyer? Yama, be careful. There. That's where the bad things happen. So I'm kind of getting ready to maybe provide him a smokescreen, but he is absolutely going full ham on that position. Be careful. There might be something nasty coming around that corner. So I'm going to go wide here, and there was one of the destroyers. Yes, there's the enemy Harugumo, but we don't have vision on him right now. Okay, Yamato is finding himself something to shoot at. There's Zhao. Now, that aggressive Zhao is not also necessarily a great idea, but maybe he thinks that he's a destroyer and he can take out the Yamato and get his torpedoes away, which is probably not a terrible approach. And the Yamato now has to turn and run right past that island there, because otherwise he's going to get torpedoed by the Zhao. Because even with rapid reload, I can't take that thing out in that quickly. But the Zhao is now dead. I'm smoking up, and yeah, there's a Schlieffen. Yamato. The Schlieffen is it's about to do that to you. There you go. Now Yamato has a good torpedo defense, but that's going to hurt. So he just found out that he's completely overcommitted. So that's a dead Yamato, probably. He's now on triple permafire or something. So we have our Großer Kurfürst, who's seen what the Yamato's been doing. That says, I'll do that too. Which, if you're in a Großer Kurfürst, is not a terrible idea. And there's Harugumo. So obviously that's the target that we need to shoot at. And yes, these are the Schlieffen sea mines. The Kurfürst has noticed them. And we now need to do something about that Harugumo, because he does have torpedoes. And even if he does not, and yes, they're calling it out. Yep, I'm on it. Unfortunately, I'm not in a light cruiser, so I can't get close up. I need to do this from a distance, otherwise my armor piercing starts to overpenetrate from the main guns. There come the Harugumo's torpedoes. Shima, Haru torps, don't go in there. I am trying to get I'm trying to get at least into secondary range. We're using the rapid reload. Come on. That's ridiculous. And a couple more shots out. Okay, Kurfürst gets him. Nice. All right, so no more torpedoes in the water. We're sure of that. There's a Schlieffen behind that corner. Shima, there's a Schlieffen behind that corner. He has torpedoes. Do you want to YOLO that thing? I'm not sure that's a wise idea. The Yamato, and to nobody's great surprise, has succumbed to enemy fire. There's Smolensk over there. All right, now we're in a sort of center position, and we've got 4 against 3. The problem is that's a almost full health Monty. That's a Smolensk and a Schlieffen out there. So smoke up and shots out, and of course already ship in reverse. But once again, the problem here is that ship is big, and I am trying to hit the bow section or the guns, the forward gun turrets of the Montana, because as you can see, even if I get 10 hits on target, she's not doing an awful lot. It does add up though, so not something to be underestimated. But lots of bounces, lots of semi-pens. The armor-piercing penetration of the main guns is not great. This might be one of those ships that can really shine with APCS, but we'll have to test that. Okay, Schlieffen comes around here, and it's a fair fight on the other side, and that battleship of ours looks like it's going to go down, so being chased by a destroyer. So that is Shima. There's a Schlieffen out there. You sure you want to go? I mean, you may want to. He's probably got sonar. I'm again trying to hit the stern section, but I think Schlieffen is a bit faster now. So yeah, that salvo was too short. That is going to splash behind him. And there's also Smolensk and Black Monty. Shima, why is everybody suiciding at the moment? Ow, yeah, that's what happens when you're not paying attention. Okay, Schlieffen's got torpedoes, and there's a Montana over there, so we are not going to keep sailing in this direction. We need to smoke up, because otherwise that Monty is going to murder me. He's not paying attention, so I am trying to assist the other battleship over there a little bit that has been chased around by the destroyer. So Shima has made it out of there, to my great surprise, and has taken down about half of the Schlieffen with him. So yeah, but now what now? Now what? Now Shima's out of torpedoes, he's running, and my smoke's going to be down in 10 seconds. So I'm going to have to run away from here as well. So my cunning plan to support the team against the other Monty over there has been foiled. The battleship is dead, the other flank has fallen, and I'm now crossfired between a Montana, a Black Montana, and a Schlieffen, and I'm in a cruiser. And I'm not just in any cruiser, I'm in something that isn't particularly maneuverable, very large, and has very, very bad armor. Yeah, Schlieffen, no, I knew these were coming. I don't need no Hydro to know that. Okay, Monty shots out again. Kurfürst? Fire support? Maybe? Where's the Kurfürst gone? He's heading back to the capture circle. Okay, sure, we'll do that. Let's try to hit the Smolensk from here. But of course, if he's maneuvering, then that is not really working that well. I could try to do the American thing and kind of go bow in, but yeah, unfortunately, the armor isn't really conducive to that sort of thing, especially not if you've got a Montana shooting at you. So smoke up again. Smolensk is definitely something that you can deal with. The problem with this ship, the main problem with this ship, is that it's too large, the armor is terrible, the armor piercing penetration isn't great, you have no high explosive, and you have no torpedoes. So that makes dealing with things like battleships actually a lot harder. And yeah, I'm gonna either be killed by this Monty or by that Monty, so I may as well be killed by this Monty. Again, same principle here. The guns are not super precise. Ships of similar size would be, say, a Hindenburg, which I enjoy, because the Hindenburg actually has armor and is quite precise. And yeah, now the Kurfürst would have to kill something, but or the Shimakaze would have to manage to finally kill the Schlieffen, but that's not happening. So we've lost this one on points, unfortunately. And yeah. Is the Gibraltar a good ship? No. I would say it's probably not as terrible as a Goliath, but I would say it's a distinctly average ship. It's a heavy cruiser. It's a very large heavy cruiser with poor armor plating that gets absolutely hammered by battleship shells. Has very limited use against destroyers because you have no torpedoes and you only have armor piercing on the mains. And really the only thing that the ship's sort of good at is clapping Smolensks, if you can hit them. And yeah, that's about it really. So for a cruiser, especially for a heavy cruiser, which I like to play in a sort of jack of all trades role, She's lacking the... She's kind of lacking the DPS, really, that you get from cruisers that are torpedo-armed or that have smaller calibers with much, much higher reloads. Things like a Des Moines. She's not terrible, so if you can manage to stay alive, especially with the rapid reload build, you actually get a scary amount of shell fire on target, and it adds up over time. So even if you're just shooting at battleships, the armor-piercing damage will add up over time, but it is your only method of scoring damage. And as such, oftentimes you find yourself, running where you prefer not to. And hiding in smoke screens is very, very difficult in the ship, because anybody who knows how to, they just need to aim at the smoke screen. It doesn't matter if you're moving in it or not. They just need to aim in the general direction of the smoke screen. 2 or 3 hits from a battleship are going to shave half of your hit points off. So, yeah, I personally wouldn't bother. But if you're a huge fan of this thing, then by all means go for it. But do try to grab yourself that other camo, because that looked a bit more useful. Anyway, that's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.